The Law of Relativity, Finding Perspective in Life's Challenges. Written and published by Ciro Irmici. Feel free to subscribe for more content. Now let's get into the book. Introduction, Shifting Perspectives, Shifting Lives. We all face challenges in life. From everyday frustrations to life-altering hardships, these moments of difficulty often feel overwhelming, unfair, or even impossible to overcome. But what if I told you that the way you experience these challenges isn't just about the size or severity of the obstacle? What if the key to navigating life's toughest moments lies in something as simple, yet profound as changing your perspective? This is where the law of relativity comes into play. At its core, this universal law teaches us that nothing is inherently good or bad, easy or hard, big or small, except in comparison to something else. Your struggles, fears, and frustrations exist within the context of your own life and experiences, and by shifting how you see them, you can transform how you feel about them. This law invites us to reframe our challenges, not as insurmountable barriers, but as opportunities for growth and self-discovery. Think of it like this. Imagine you're climbing a mountain. When you're at the base, the peak might seem impossibly far away, the path steep and unforgiving. But as you start to ascend, every step you take changes your perspective. The peak may still be distant, but from your new vantage point, you can see the progress you've made. Suddenly the climb doesn't feel quite so overwhelming. You begin to realize that while the mountain is still the same size, your experience of it has shifted. This is the power of perspective, and it's at the heart of the law of relativity. In this book, we will explore how understanding and applying this law can change the way you approach life's challenges. You'll learn how to see obstacles for what they truly are, opportunities to gain new insights, build resilience, and develop a deeper understanding of yourself and the world around you. We'll start by diving into the very nature of perception and how it shapes your reality. From there, we'll examine why some challenges feel so much more difficult than others and explore how to shift your mindset in ways that open up new possibilities. You'll learn practical techniques for reframing negative experiences, using comparison as a tool for motivation rather than frustration, and finding strength in adversity. We'll also look at how the law of relativity influences your relationships, your career, and your personal growth journey. Most importantly, this book will show you that you hold the power to change your reality by changing how you view it. Challenges are inevitable, but suffering is optional. The way you choose to respond to life's difficulties can either trap you in a cycle of frustration or launch you into a state of empowerment and growth. By the time you finish this book, my hope is that you'll see that the peaks and valleys of life are all part of the same landscape, and that you have the ability to navigate them with grace and resilience. So, if you've ever felt like the weight of the world is pressing down on you, or if you're looking for a way to turn life's obstacles into stepping stones, you're in the right place. The law of relativity is your compass, and this book is your guide. Together, we'll discover how changing your perspective can change your life. Let's begin this journey of transformation. Chapter 1. Perception Shapes Reality. Life is full of ups and downs, but if you take a moment to reflect on those experiences, you might notice something remarkable. The challenges that seemed impossible to overcome in the past often look very different from where you stand today. What changed? It wasn't the situation itself, it was your perception of it. The law of relativity teaches us that everything we experience is relative, shaped by how we perceive it. Nothing in life is inherently good or bad. Rather, our minds categorize experiences based on how they compare to other things we've gone through or what we've seen in the lives of others. This is why a problem that feels overwhelming to one person might seem trivial to another. The experience itself remains the same, but the way we perceive it changes everything. The power of perception. Think about the last time you faced a significant challenge. Maybe it was a work setback, a personal loss, or a difficult relationship. At the time, it might have felt like the world was crashing down around you. But now, looking back, perhaps it doesn't seem quite as catastrophic. What changed was your perspective. Our perceptions shape our reality. How we choose to view any given situation will determine how we feel about it, how we react to it, and ultimately what we learn from it. This doesn't mean ignoring difficulties or pretending that hard times don't exist. Rather, it means recognizing that our internal response to an external event has a profound impact on how we experience it. For example, let's say you're caught in a traffic jam. On a practical level, the situation is the same for everyone. You're stuck in a sea of cars with no immediate way out. But one person might react with frustration and stress, honking their horn and feeling angry about the delay. Meanwhile, another person might take the opportunity to listen to a favorite podcast or enjoy a moment of peace before a busy day. The circumstances are the same, but the experience is vastly different. This is the power of perception. Reframing challenges. The first step in applying the law of relativity is understanding that you have the ability to reframe any challenge. A problem isn't inherently big or small, it's only as large as you perceive it to be. By shifting your perspective, you can change how you experience that challenge. This doesn't mean minimizing your problems or pretending they don't matter. Instead, it's about finding a different lens through which to view them. When you reframe a challenge, you're essentially asking yourself, what is this teaching me? How can I grow from this? Let's consider an example. Imagine you lose your job. At first, it might feel like the end of the world. How will you pay your bills? What will happen to your career? But with time and perspective, you might come to see it as an opportunity, a chance to explore a new path, learn new skills, or find a job that aligns more closely with your passions. The situation hasn't changed, but your perception of it has, and with that shift, new possibilities emerge. The role of comparison. Another key aspect of the law of relativity is the role of comparison. We often compare our struggles to those of others, consciously or unconsciously. This can either help or hinder us depending on how we approach it. When you look at someone who seems to be thriving while you're struggling, it's easy to feel discouraged. But remember, we only see a snapshot of someone else's life, and it's never the full picture. The person who seems to have everything together may be facing their own unseen battles. By comparing yourself to others without context, you set yourself up for frustration. However, comparison can also be a powerful tool for growth. Instead of seeing others' successes as a measure of your own shortcomings, you can use them as inspiration. What can you learn from someone who has overcome a similar challenge? How can their journey inform yours? By shifting from a mindset of competition to one of learning, comparison becomes a source of motivation rather than discouragement. The science behind perspective. This concept isn't just spiritual or philosophical, it's also rooted in science. Studies in psychology show that how we frame situations directly affects our emotional and physiological responses. For example, research on cognitive reappraisal, a technique used in cognitive behavioral therapy, shows that people who consciously change their perspective on a difficult situation often experience less stress and greater emotional resilience. By learning to reinterpret challenges, you can actually retrain your brain to handle adversity in a healthier, more constructive way. Choosing how to respond. The law of relativity doesn't mean that you'll never face difficulties, but it does remind you that you have the power to choose how to respond. Instead of being swept away by the emotional impact of a challenge, you can take a step back, reframe the situation, and decide how you want to engage with it. Next time you're faced with a difficult situation, try this exercise. 1. Pause and reflect. Before reacting, take a moment to breathe and acknowledge the situation. 2. Ask yourself, what am I comparing this to? Is there a different way to view this challenge? 3. Reframe the experience. How can this situation help me grow? What can I learn from it? This simple shift in mindset can open up new avenues for growth and learning. It doesn't mean the challenge disappears, but it does mean that your experience of it changes. And often that's enough to turn a difficult moment into a stepping stone for greater things. Moving forward. As we continue through this book, we'll explore more ways to apply the law of relativity in your life. We'll look at how it affects your relationships, career, and personal growth, and provide practical tools for shifting your perspective in each of these areas. Remember, life's challenges are inevitable, but suffering through them is optional. By changing your perception, you can change your reality. Chapter 2. Life's Challenges in Context. Life is a series of challenges, each one seemingly unique and specific to its own time and place. Yet, if we step back, we begin to see that these challenges are not isolated events. Rather, they exist in a larger context, both within our own lives and in the world around us. How we view and experience these challenges is deeply influenced by the comparisons we make, consciously or unconsciously, to other events, circumstances, or people. The law of relativity reminds us that no experience stands alone. Everything we go through is relative to something else, and it's this context that gives meaning to our struggles. Once we understand this, we can begin to shift our view, seeing difficulties not as insurmountable, but as opportunities for growth within a broader perspective. The comparison trap. Why some challenges feel harder than others. It's human nature to compare. We compare ourselves to others, our present situation to past experiences, and our expectations to reality. But not all comparisons serve us well. In fact, many of our struggles are magnified because we place them in a context that amplifies our feelings of inadequacy, stress, or fear. Imagine you're going through a rough patch at work. Perhaps you missed a deadline or received criticism from your boss. In isolation, this event may feel like a small hurdle, something you can overcome. But when you compare it to a colleague who always seems to excel or to a previous time when work was going smoothly, the problem suddenly feels much larger. The challenge hasn't changed. What has changed is the context in which you're viewing it. This is what we often refer to as the comparison trap. When you compare your struggles to someone else's perceived success or to your own past achievements, it's easy to feel overwhelmed as though you're falling behind. But what we often forget is that the comparisons we make are usually incomplete. We compare our struggles to someone else's highlights, forgetting that we don't see the full scope of their challenges. Putting challenges in a broader context. One of the key ways to apply the law of relativity is by placing your challenges in a broader, more realistic context. Instead of narrowing your focus on the immediate problem, step back and ask yourself, what is this in relation to? For instance, let's say you're facing a financial setback. You might feel anxious, frustrated, and even panicked, especially if you compare your situation to a time when your finances were stable. But now take a step back and widen the lens. Perhaps this setback is temporary, or it's part of a larger journey that will ultimately lead to greater financial wisdom and stability. Maybe this experience is relative to a time in your life when things were even more difficult, but you managed to pull through. By expanding the context, you begin to see that this challenge, while real, is not the defining feature of your life. It's simply one chapter in a much longer story. This process of broadening the context helps reduce the emotional weight of challenges. When you see the bigger picture, it becomes easier to understand that setbacks and difficulties are part of life's ebb and flow, and that their impact is often temporary. The influence of external circumstances. While perception and comparison play significant roles in how we experience challenges, it's important to acknowledge that external circumstances also influence our perspective. The context in which we live, our culture, upbringing, social circles, and even the media we consume, shapes how we view our own struggles. For example, if you live in a culture that places a high value on material success, you might feel more pressure and stress when facing financial difficulties than someone who comes from a community that values emotional well-being over wealth. Similarly, if you're surrounded by people who prioritize career achievements, personal setbacks in that area may feel more significant than they would in a different context. The law of relativity invites us to question these external influences. Are the challenges you face really as monumental as they seem, or have they been amplified by the context in which you're viewing them? By becoming aware of the societal and cultural pressures that shape our perception, we can begin to reframe our challenges more objectively. How context changes over time. Another important aspect of the law of relativity is that context is fluid. The way we perceive a challenge today may be very different from how we perceive it months or years down the line. Time has a remarkable way of shifting our perspective, often making problems that once seemed insurmountable feel small in retrospect. Think back to a challenge you faced 5 or 10 years ago, perhaps a relationship breakup, a job loss, or a personal failure. At the time, it may have felt like the end of the world. But now, with the benefit of time and distance, you likely see it differently. What once seemed like a disaster may now appear as a turning point, an event that led to personal growth or new opportunities. This shift in perspective over time demonstrates the relative nature of challenges. What feels overwhelming in the moment will likely feel much smaller in the future. The challenge itself may not change, but your perception of it will evolve as new experiences and insights provide a different context. Using relativity to reframe challenges. Understanding that challenges are relative doesn't mean they aren't real or difficult, but it does give us the tools to reframe them in ways that make them more manageable. When faced with a tough situation, try asking yourself these questions. 1. What is this challenge relative to? Is it relative to a time when things were going well, or to an idealized version of how you think life should be? Acknowledging the comparison can help you see the situation more clearly. 2. How does this challenge fit into the bigger picture of my life? Is this a temporary setback, or is it part of a larger journey? Seeing your challenge in the context of your broader life story can help reduce its emotional weight. 3. What external influences are shaping my perception of this challenge? Are societal pressures or cultural expectations making this situation feel more difficult than it needs to be? Identifying these external factors can help you view the challenge more objectively. 4. How will I see this challenge in the future? Imagine yourself looking back on this moment 5 or 10 years from now. How might your perspective change with time? Often, this exercise alone can reduce stress and help you approach the challenge with a calmer mindset. The opportunity within every challenge. The law of relativity doesn't just help us manage challenges, it also helps us find opportunities for growth within them. By understanding that challenges are relative, we can begin to see them as stepping stones rather than roadblocks. Every challenge you face is an opportunity to gain new insights, build resilience, and grow stronger. Whether it's learning how to navigate difficult relationships, finding strength in adversity, or developing new skills in the face of failure, each experience offers a chance for personal growth. The key is to remember that how you view the challenge shapes what you learn from it. If you see it as an overwhelming obstacle, that's likely all it will ever be. But if you choose to view it as an opportunity for growth, you'll be able to extract valuable lessons that will serve you in the future. In this chapter, we've explored how life's challenges exist in context, how they are influenced by comparison, external circumstances, and time. We've learned that by broadening our perspective, we can reduce the emotional weight of challenges and reframe them as opportunities for growth. In the next chapter, we'll dive deeper into how shifting your mindset can further transform how you experience difficulties, empowering you to navigate life with greater resilience and confidence. Chapter 3. Shifting your mindset. Challenges in life are inevitable, but how we approach and perceive them is entirely within our control. One of the most powerful lessons from the law of relativity is that we have the ability to shift our mindset, which can transform how we experience and overcome obstacles. When we change our thoughts and beliefs, we change our reality. Our mindset acts as the lens through which we see the world. It shapes our experiences, our reactions, and ultimately our outcomes. If we adopt a rigid or negative mindset, even minor difficulties can feel overwhelming. However, if we cultivate a growth-oriented and flexible mindset, we open ourselves to new perspectives and solutions, transforming challenges into opportunities. In this chapter, we'll explore the profound effect that your mindset has on how you experience life's challenges. We'll look at practical strategies for shifting your mindset to one that empowers you, helps you grow, and ultimately leads to greater resilience in the face of adversity. The fixed versus growth mindset. Psychologist Carol Dweck famously coined the terms fixed mindset and growth mindset, two contrasting ways of viewing life's challenges. These mindsets dramatically influence how we perceive setbacks, handle criticism, and approach opportunities for growth. Fixed mindset. People with a fixed mindset believe that their abilities, intelligence, and talents are static traits. They see challenges as threats to their self-worth because failure means they are inherently lacking. When faced with difficulties, someone with a fixed mindset may become discouraged, give up easily, or avoid challenges altogether to protect their ego. Growth mindset. In contrast, people with a growth mindset believe that they can improve through effort, learning, and perseverance. They view challenges as opportunities to grow rather than as threats to their self-esteem. With this mindset, failures aren't seen as a reflection of one's inherent value, but as stepping stones toward success. The law of relativity aligns closely with the growth mindset, because it teaches us that how we experience challenges is relative to how we view them. By adopting a growth mindset, you can reframe failures as learning experiences and setbacks as necessary parts of personal development. For example, Imagine you're learning a new skill like playing an instrument or speaking a new language. A person with a fixed mindset might give up after making a few mistakes, seeing those mistakes as evidence that they aren't talented. However, a person with a growth mindset would view each mistake as part of the learning process, an essential component of growth. Reframing challenges, the power of perspective. The first step in shifting your mindset is learning how to reframe challenges. This means looking at the same situation from a different angle, focusing on what you can learn or how you can grow from it, rather than seeing it as an insurmountable problem. Let's consider an example. You've just missed an important deadline at work. Your initial reaction might be one of panic or frustration, and a fixed mindset could lead you to believe that you've failed and aren't capable. However, with a growth mindset, you could ask yourself, what can I learn from this experience? Maybe the missed deadline teaches you something valuable about time management or highlights areas where you can improve your organizational skills. By reframing the situation as a learning opportunity rather than a failure, you shift your mindset from one of defeat to one of growth and progress. This isn't about sugarcoating challenges or pretending everything is easy. Instead, it's about recognizing that every difficulty carries within it the seed of growth, if we're willing to look for it. Mindset and emotional resilience. Shifting your mindset doesn't just change how you think about challenges, it also has a profound impact on your emotional resilience. Emotional resilience is your ability to bounce back from setbacks and continue moving forward despite difficulties. People with a growth mindset tend to have higher emotional resilience because they don't see challenges as permanent or defining. Instead, they view them as part of the ebb and flow of life, understanding that today's difficulties don't dictate tomorrow's outcomes. Let's say you're dealing with a personal crisis, such as the end of a relationship or a career setback. While the initial emotional impact might be painful, the way you frame the situation plays a huge role in how quickly and effectively you recover. A growth mindset allows you to ask questions like, what can I learn from this experience? How can this help me grow as a person? By focusing on growth rather than the pain of the moment, you build resilience and gain the strength to move forward. Developing emotional resilience through mindset shifts doesn't mean ignoring or suppressing negative emotions. Instead, it's about acknowledging those emotions and still choosing to focus on the possibilities for growth and learning. Over time, this practice strengthens your ability to handle challenges with grace and adaptability. Mindset shifts, practical strategies. Shifting your mindset takes practice, but it's absolutely possible to rewire the way you approach challenges. Here are some practical strategies to help you cultivate a growth-oriented mindset. 1. Embrace mistakes as learning opportunities. Mistakes are inevitable, but they don't have to define you. The next time you make an error or face a setback, consciously remind yourself that mistakes are a natural part of growth. Ask yourself, what can I learn from this experience? And focus on the lessons rather than the failure. 2. Replace negative self-talk with empowering thoughts. Pay attention to your inner dialogue when you're facing a challenge. Do you tell yourself, I'm not good enough, or I'll never figure this out? These thoughts are rooted in a fixed mindset. Instead, try replacing them with more empowering phrases like, this is tough, but I can learn and improve, or every challenge helps me grow stronger. 3. Surround yourself with growth-oriented people. The people you spend time with can greatly influence your mindset. Surround yourself with those who encourage learning, growth, and perseverance. Their positive attitudes and approaches to challenges will naturally rub off on you, helping you maintain a growth mindset even when times are tough. 4. Focus on progress, not perfection. One of the hallmarks of a growth mindset is celebrating progress, no matter how small. Instead of getting discouraged by how far you still have to go, take time to acknowledge how far you've already come. This shift in focus will keep you motivated and encouraged, even when the road ahead seems long. 5. Practice gratitude for challenges. It might sound counterintuitive, but practicing gratitude for your challenges can be a powerful way to shift your mindset. When you approach difficulties with a sense of gratitude, focusing on how they are helping you grow, learn, or become stronger, you transform the way you experience them. Try starting each day by writing down one challenge you're grateful for and why. The long-term impact of a growth mindset. Cultivating a growth mindset isn't just about handling individual challenges better, It's about transforming your entire approach to life. With this mindset, you'll find that life's difficulties don't feel as heavy or overwhelming because you trust in your ability to learn, adapt, and grow from every experience. Over time, this mindset shift creates a ripple effect. As you become more adept at reframing challenges, your resilience grows and so does your confidence. You'll approach life's ups and downs with a sense of curiosity and possibility rather than fear or frustration. In addition, a growth mindset helps you stay open to new opportunities. When you believe that you can improve and learn, you're more likely to take risks, try new things, and embrace change. This leads to personal growth, new experiences, and ultimately, a more fulfilling life. Moving forward. Shifting your mindset is one of the most powerful things you can do to change how you experience life's challenges. By embracing a growth mindset, you open yourself up to new perspectives, resilience, and personal growth. Remember, your mindset is the lens through which you see the world, and when you shift that lens, everything changes. In the next chapter, we'll explore how comparison plays a key role in how we perceive challenges, and how learning to use comparison wisely can transform your experience of life. Chapter 4. The Power of Comparison. Comparison is an inherent part of human nature. From the time we are children, we learn to compare ourselves to others, using those comparisons to measure our progress, success, and worth. While this tendency to compare can sometimes be helpful, providing motivation and insight, it can also become a major source of stress and self-doubt when used unwisely. The Law of Relativity teaches us that everything is relative, meaning that all experiences, challenges, and successes are perceived in relation to something else. Our natural inclination to compare one thing to another is a key part of how we interpret the world around us. But here's the important question. How are you using comparison in your life? Is it helping you grow or is it weighing you down? In this chapter, we'll explore how comparison shapes your experience of challenges, how to avoid the negative trap of unhealthy comparisons, and how to turn comparison into a powerful tool for personal growth. Why we compare ourselves to others. At its core, comparison is a survival mechanism. In ancient times, comparing oneself to others helped humans navigate the social hierarchy, find safety in groups, and learn from the successes and failures of others. Today, however, the modern world offers a much more complex environment for comparison. Social media, professional networks, and societal expectations bombard us with curated glimpses into others' lives, making it easy to fall into the trap of unhealthy comparison. We often compare ourselves to others in three primary areas. 1. Success. How do I measure up in my career, achievements, or financial status? 2. Appearance. Do I look as good as others? Am I fit or attractive enough? 3. Lifestyle. Am I living the right kind of life? Do I have the things that others seem to enjoy, like relationships, adventures, or material possessions? These comparisons can leave us feeling inadequate if we don't seem to measure up. But the problem with this kind of comparison is that we're often comparing ourselves to a distorted version of reality. We only see snapshots of other people's lives, their highlights, not their struggles. And without context, these comparisons become deeply misleading and damaging. The dangers of negative comparison. When we fall into the trap of negative comparison, it can lead to several harmful outcomes such as 1. Feelings of inadequacy. Comparing yourself to others' successes, especially when you don't know their full story, can create a false sense of inadequacy. You may start to believe that your accomplishments aren't good enough or that you're falling behind, even if you're making great progress in your own life. 2. Jealousy and resentment. Constant comparison can lead to jealousy of others and resentment toward yourself or your situation. You might find yourself resenting your own progress, feeling frustrated that others seem to have it easier or better. 3. Self-sabotage. When comparison becomes overwhelming, it can lead to self-sabotage. If you believe you'll never be as successful or happy as someone else, you may stop trying altogether, believing that your efforts won't make a difference. 4. A narrow view of success. By comparing yourself to others, you may adopt a very narrow and one-dimensional view of success. You might start measuring your worth only by material achievements or appearances, forgetting that success is deeply personal and unique to each individual. These negative outcomes are not inevitable. The key lies in shifting how you use comparison. turning it from a source of frustration into a powerful tool for self-improvement and motivation. Using comparison as a tool for growth. While negative comparison can be harmful, there is also a positive side to comparison. When used wisely, comparison can serve as a mirror to reflect areas of growth, inspiration, and learning. Here are some ways to use comparison in a more empowering way. 1. Compare to learn, not to judge. Instead of comparing yourself to others in a way that creates judgment, whether you feel superior or inferior, use comparison as an opportunity to learn. When you see someone who has achieved something you aspire to, ask yourself, what can I learn from their journey? Perhaps they've developed habits, skills, or mindsets that you can incorporate into your own life. By shifting the focus from judgment to learning, you turn comparison into a tool for self-improvement rather than self-criticism. 2. Use comparison as a source of inspiration. Instead of feeling envious of someone else's success, use their achievements as motivation. If you admire someone for their career, relationships, or personal growth, let that inspire you to pursue your own version of success. Remember, their success doesn't take away from yours. There's room for everyone to thrive. When you shift your mindset to one of abundance rather than scarcity, you realize that other people's achievements can fuel your own growth. 3. Focus on your own progress. While it's natural to compare yourself to others, the most meaningful comparison you can make is between who you are today and who you were yesterday. Are you growing? Are you learning from your challenges? By focusing on your own progress, you can build a sense of satisfaction and confidence that external comparisons can't provide. A great way to cultivate this is by keeping a growth journal, where you track your personal development over time. Celebrate the small wins, reflect on lessons learned, and stay grounded in your own journey. 4. Understand the full context. Before comparing yourself to others, take a moment to consider the full context. Are you seeing the whole picture or just a carefully curated glimpse of their success? Remember that everyone has challenges, setbacks, and struggles that aren't always visible to the outside world. You may be comparing your behind the scenes to someone else's highlight reel. Keeping this in mind helps you approach comparison with more realism and compassion. Reframing comparison through the lens of relativity. The law of relativity teaches us that everything in life is experienced in relation to something else. This means that when you compare yourself to others, you are engaging in a natural and inevitable process. The key is to recognize that what you're comparing is subjective. For example, if you feel discouraged because someone seems to have more financial success than you, it's helpful to remember that financial success is only one dimension of life. Perhaps you've prioritized personal relationships, health, or emotional well-being in a way that brings you more fulfillment, even if it doesn't show up in your bank account. Your success might be relative to your values and goals, which are different from those of the person you're comparing yourself to. By reframing comparison in this way, you can recognize the areas where you are thriving and find balance in how you view success. Instead of using comparison to tear yourself down, use it to identify what truly matters to you. Turning off the comparison noise. In today's hyperconnected world, it's easy to be bombarded with constant reminders of what other people are doing, achieving, or becoming. Social media, in particular, can amplify this tendency to compare. One powerful way to take control of your mental and emotional health is to turn off the noise when needed. 1. Limit social media consumption. Social media offers an endless stream of curated, often unrealistic representations of people's lives. While it can be inspiring in small doses, it can also lead to negative comparison. Take intentional breaks from social media, and use that time to focus on your own growth, goals, and inner world. 2. Practice gratitude. Gratitude is a powerful antidote to comparison. When you focus on what you already have and the progress you've made, it's easier to let go of the need to measure up to others. Begin each day by listing a few things you're grateful for. This simple practice shifts your mindset from scarcity to abundance, reminding you that your journey is unique and valuable. 3. Engage in mindfulness. Mindfulness practices, like meditation or journaling, can help you stay present in your own experience, rather than constantly comparing yourself to others. By grounding yourself in the present moment, you develop a deeper appreciation for where you are right now, without the distraction of external comparisons. Moving forward. Comparison is an inevitable part of life, but how you use it can make all the difference. By shifting from negative, judgmental comparison to using comparison as a tool for learning, inspiration, and self-reflection, you empower yourself to grow. Remember, your journey is unique, and the only meaningful comparison is between who you are today and who you have the potential to become. In the next chapter, we'll dive deeper into how you can find strength in adversity, exploring ways to turn setbacks into stepping stones for personal growth. Chapter 5. Finding Strength in Adversity. Adversity is something we all encounter no matter where we are in life. These challenges come in many forms: loss, failure, disappointment, or unexpected obstacles, and often appear when we least expect them. While no one seeks out adversity, the truth is that it can be one of the most powerful catalysts for growth, if we allow it to be. The Law of Relativity teaches us that our experience of adversity is shaped by the way we compare it to other events, people, or moments in our lives. What feels like an overwhelming crisis in the present moment may look entirely different when placed in a broader context. In this chapter, we'll explore how you can find strength in adversity, not by avoiding it or minimizing its impact, but by embracing the opportunities for growth that it offers. The nature of adversity. Adversity is often seen as something to be feared or avoided, but it's a natural and inevitable part of life. No matter how much we plan or prepare, unexpected difficulties will always arise. These challenges are what shape us. They force us to confront our weaknesses, dig deep for solutions, and stretch beyond our comfort zones. When adversity strikes, it's easy to feel trapped or powerless. The initial reaction is often fear, frustration, or even anger. We might ask ourselves, why is this happening to me, or what did I do wrong? It's human nature to want to assign blame, either to ourselves or external circumstances. But what if, instead of seeing adversity as something that happens to us, we started seeing it as something that happens for us? This subtle shift in perspective can make all the difference. Adversity doesn't have to be a roadblock. It can be a turning point, a moment when we stop, reassess, and ultimately grow stronger. This doesn't mean the challenge itself becomes easy or pleasant, but it does mean that we can choose how we respond to it, and that choice is where our power lies. The strength hidden within struggles. It's often said that we don't realize how strong we are until we're forced to be. This rings especially true during difficult times. When life is going smoothly, we operate within the limits of what's comfortable and familiar. But when adversity strikes, we are pushed out of our comfort zone, often discovering reserves of resilience, creativity, and strength we didn't know we had. Think of a time in your life when you faced a significant challenge, perhaps a loss, a failure, or a period of uncertainty. Looking back, you may realize that what initially felt overwhelming turned out to be a moment that led to significant personal growth. Whether it was learning to let go, discovering a new path, or building resilience, the strength you gained from that experience shaped who you are today. There's a metaphor often used to describe this process. Consider how a diamond is formed. Under immense pressure and heat, carbon atoms are transformed into one of the hardest and most valuable substances on Earth. Without the pressure, the diamond would never take shape. In much the same way, adversity applies pressure to our lives, but it's within this pressure that we have the potential to transform into something stronger, more resilient, and more refined. Reframing adversity as opportunity. The key to finding strength in adversity lies in how we choose to view it. If we see adversity only as a problem, we miss the opportunity to grow. But if we choose to reframe it as an opportunity for transformation, everything changes. This doesn't mean we need to diminish the reality of the challenges we face. Adversity is often painful and difficult, and it's important to acknowledge that. But alongside that pain, we can ask ourselves, what can I learn from this? Or how can I use this experience to grow? Reframing adversity is about shifting our mindset from victim to active participant in our own growth. It's recognizing that while we may not have control over the challenges we encounter, we do have control over how we respond to them. When we adopt this perspective, we stop seeing adversity as something that simply happens to us and begin to view it as a catalyst for transformation. Take, for example, someone who loses their job unexpectedly. The initial reaction may be fear, stress, or anger. But once the shock wears off, that person might take the opportunity to reassess their career, identify what they truly want, and pursue a path that better aligns with their values. What initially felt like a setback becomes a step toward greater fulfillment. Reframing adversity doesn't change the fact that it's challenging, but it does allow us to find meaning in our struggles and emerge from them stronger and wiser. Building resilience through adversity. Resilience is the ability to bounce back from hardship, to keep going even when things get tough. It's not about being unaffected by challenges, but rather about adapting to them and finding ways to move forward despite the difficulties. One of the greatest gifts of adversity is that it builds resilience. Each time we face a challenge and come through it, we add to our internal reservoir of strength. The next time adversity strikes, we draw on that strength, knowing that we've survived difficult times before and can do so again. Resilience doesn't mean ignoring the emotional impact of adversity. It's important to allow yourself to feel whatever emotions arise, whether it's sadness, frustration, or fear. But resilience is about choosing to move forward, even when those emotions are present. It's about recognizing that while the road may be hard, you have the strength and capacity to navigate it. Over time, as you continue to build resilience through adversity, you begin to trust yourself more. You realize that no matter what challenges come your way, you have the tools to handle them. This trust in yourself is one of the greatest forms of strength you can cultivate. Adversity as a teacher. Adversity, though painful, is one of life's greatest teachers. It strips away the superficial and forces us to confront what truly matters. It teaches us about ourselves, our strengths, our weaknesses, and what we're truly capable of. In moments of hardship, we often discover clarity about our values, priorities, and what we need to change in our lives. For many people, adversity is the catalyst for major personal or spiritual growth. It's during difficult times that we reflect more deeply on our lives, question our assumptions, and seek out new ways of thinking or being. This process of reflection and growth doesn't happen when life is easy. It happens when we're faced with challenges that push us beyond the limits of what we thought was possible. In this way, adversity serves as a mirror, reflecting back to us the areas where we have the opportunity to grow. It's through this reflection that we learn more about who we are and who we have the potential to become. Embracing the process of growth. Finding strength in adversity isn't about wishing for hardships, but it is about embracing the process of growth that comes with them. When we stop resisting the challenges in our lives and instead approach them with curiosity and openness, we allow ourselves to transform in ways we never thought possible. This doesn't mean we have to face adversity alone. In fact, one of the most important lessons adversity teaches us is the value of connection and support. Whether it's leaning on friends, family, or a community, adversity reminds us that we're not in this journey alone. Asking for help is not a sign of weakness but a recognition of our shared humanity. Moving forward. Adversity is a natural part of life, but within every challenge lies the potential for growth. The law of relativity teaches us that our experience of adversity is shaped by how we compare and frame it. By choosing to reframe adversity as an opportunity for transformation, we can find strength we didn't know we had. Each challenge, no matter how difficult, offers a chance to learn, grow, and emerge stronger on the other side. As we continue, the next chapter will explore how the law of relativity impacts our relationships and how shifting our perspective can strengthen the connections we have with others, even in difficult times. Chapter 6. Relationships and Relativity. Relationships are one of the most significant aspects of our lives. Whether they are with family, friends, colleagues, or romantic partners, relationships shape how we experience the world and ourselves. They offer moments of connection, support, and joy, but they can also be a source of conflict, misunderstanding, and disappointment. The law of relativity plays a vital role in how we perceive and engage with these relationships, teaching us that our experiences of others are often shaped by comparison and context. In this chapter, we'll explore how understanding the relativity of relationships can help us navigate conflicts, deepen connections, and find balance between our expectations and reality. By shifting our perspective, we can learn to approach relationships with more empathy, patience, and awareness. Seeing others through a relational lens. Relationships, like life's challenges, are deeply influenced by how we perceive them in relation to something else. We often compare our current relationships to past ones, or to idealized versions of how we believe relationships should be. This comparative lens can either strengthen or weaken the bonds we have with others, depending on how we use it. For instance, think about the expectations we often place on those closest to us. In romantic relationships, we may compare our partner's actions to an idealized version of what love should look like, or to the experiences of others we know or see in the media. When our partner doesn't meet these expectations, frustration can grow, and we may start to feel that something is wrong with the relationship. But if we take a step back and apply the law of relativity, we recognize that every relationship exists within its own unique context. No two relationships are the same, and each person brings their own experiences, challenges, and perspectives to the table. By seeing others through this relational lens, we begin to understand that our expectations are often shaped by comparisons that may not be fair or realistic. Instead of measuring someone against an external standard, we can start to see them for who they are in the present moment: imperfect, evolving, and worthy of empathy. The comparison trap in relationships. One of the most common ways we sabotage relationships is through comparison. We compare our friends to other friends, our partners to past partners, or our family dynamics to idealized notions of what a perfect family should look like. These comparisons can create dissatisfaction, even in relationships that are otherwise fulfilling. Take, for example, a friendship. You may feel a deep connection with a friend, but when you see another friend's social media feed filled with exciting trips or activities, you might start to feel like your friendship is lacking. However, what you're seeing is only a snapshot of someone else's life, not the full picture. That comparison creates a false sense of inadequacy, which may cause you to devalue the meaningful connection you already have. In romantic relationships, comparison can be even more damaging. When we compare our current partner to an idealized version of a partner we hold in our minds, or to a past relationship that no longer exists, we fail to appreciate the uniqueness and value of the person in front of us. Every relationship has its own rhythm, strengths, and challenges, and comparing one to another ignores the individual journey you're on with that person. Understanding the relativity of relationships helps us avoid the comparison trap. It reminds us that every relationship is unique and cannot be judged by the same standards or expectations as another. Instead of measuring others by external factors, we can focus on nurturing the specific connection we have, allowing it to evolve naturally without unnecessary pressure. Empathy and perspective in conflict. Conflict is inevitable in any relationship. Whether it's a disagreement with a partner, a misunderstanding with a friend, or tension within a family, conflict arises when perspectives clash. The law of relativity offers us a powerful tool for navigating these conflicts. Empathy. Empathy is the ability to understand and share the feelings of another. But often, in moments of conflict, empathy is the first thing to disappear. We become so focused on our own perspective, on how we feel wronged or misunderstood, that we forget to step into the other person's shoes. The law of relativity reminds us that everyone experiences life through their own lens, shaped by their own background, emotions, and circumstances. When conflict arises, instead of digging into our position, we can pause and ask, how might this person be experiencing this situation differently than I am? This doesn't mean we have to agree with them or abandon our own feelings, but it does help us understand the relativity of their perspective. When we approach conflict with empathy, we're able to see that there's more than one valid viewpoint. This creates space for dialogue, understanding, and eventually resolution. Rather than seeing the conflict as a battle to be won, we begin to view it as an opportunity to deepen our connection by understanding the other person more fully. Balancing expectations and reality. One of the greatest sources of tension in relationships is the gap between our expectations and reality. Whether it's expecting a partner to always be supportive or wanting a friend to always be available, when reality doesn't meet our expectations, disappointment follows. The law of relativity teaches us that our expectations are often based on comparisons, whether to past experiences or to idealized standards. If we can adjust our expectations to be more in line with the reality of who someone is, rather than who we want them to be, we can reduce unnecessary tension. For example, if your partner is going through a stressful time at work and seems less attentive than usual, it's easy to feel neglected and start comparing their behavior to a time when they were more present. But by stepping back and recognizing the context, understanding that their stress is affecting their behavior, You can adjust your expectations and offer support rather than adding to the pressure. Similarly, if a friend doesn't seem as available as they once were, instead of assuming the friendship is fading, you might consider the other factors in their life that could be affecting their availability. By approaching relationships with realistic expectations, rooted in an understanding of each person's unique circumstances, we can foster healthier, more resilient connections. Strengthening relationships through perspective. Perspective is one of the most powerful tools we have in relationships. The law of relativity encourages us to shift our perspective, to see situations from multiple angles and to recognize that every person brings their own relative experience to a relationship. By practicing this shift in perspective, we can reduce conflicts by understanding that disagreements are often the result of differing perceptions, rather than a fundamental flaw in the relationship. Strengthen connections by appreciating the uniqueness of each person and resisting the urge to compare them to others or to our own idealized expectations. Cultivate empathy by recognizing that we all experience life differently, and by trying to understand where others are coming from rather than reacting solely from our own point of view. In the end, relationships thrive when we approach them with patience, understanding, and a willingness to see things from another's perspective. The law of relativity reminds us that our experience of others is never fixed. It is shaped by how we choose to perceive them. Moving forward, relationships are an ever-evolving journey, shaped by the perspectives and experiences of those involved. By understanding the relativity of our interactions, we can learn to approach relationships with more empathy, flexibility, and openness. Instead of comparing, criticizing, or clinging to unrealistic expectations, we can focus on nurturing genuine connections, grounded in mutual understanding and appreciation. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to apply the law of relativity in other aspects of life, including work, finances, and personal goals, learning how to navigate setbacks and challenges with a balanced perspective. Chapter 7. Applying relativity in everyday life. Life unfolds in a series of events, decisions, and experiences, each of which can feel uniquely challenging or rewarding. But as we've explored through the law of relativity, our perception of these experiences is not fixed. They are shaped by context, comparison, and perspective. Whether we are dealing with difficulties at work, financial stress, or personal ambitions, how we interpret and react to these moments greatly influences their impact on us. In this chapter, we'll explore how to apply the law of relativity in everyday life. From navigating career setbacks to managing financial pressures, you'll learn how to shift your perspective to find balance and growth, even in the most difficult circumstances. By understanding the relativity of your experiences, you can transform obstacles into opportunities and achieve a deeper sense of contentment and clarity. Work and career, reframing success. In the professional world, success is often measured by external standards: promotions, salary, recognition, or the speed at which we climb the career ladder. However, these markers of success are not universal. What feels like a success to one person may feel like a failure to another, depending on their goals, values, and circumstances. This is where the law of relativity comes into play. Imagine you've been working tirelessly for a promotion that you didn't get. Your initial reaction might be frustration or disappointment, especially if you compare your progress to that of a colleague who did get the promotion. It's easy to spiral into negative thinking, believing that you're falling behind or that your efforts are not valued. But the context of your experience matters. Instead of viewing this moment in isolation, consider the broader landscape of your career. Take a step back and ask, what have I learned in this role that has prepared me for future opportunities? How does this setback fit into the larger arc of my professional growth? By reframing the situation, you begin to see that one missed promotion doesn't define your entire career. In fact, the challenges you're facing might be preparing you for something even better, a path that aligns more deeply with your long-term goals. Relativity teaches us that success isn't linear. Each person's career unfolds at its own pace and in its own way. Instead of focusing solely on external achievements, consider how your journey compares to your own values and aspirations. Perhaps this setback is offering you a chance to refine your skills, explore new opportunities, or reassess what truly matters to you in your professional life. Financial stress, finding perspective in uncertainty. financial challenges can be some of the most stressful experiences we face. Whether it's struggling with debt, dealing with unexpected expenses, or feeling like we're not where we should be financially, money can easily become a source of anxiety. The law of relativity helps us put these pressures into perspective. In times of financial difficulty, it's common to compare ourselves to others. Friends who seem to have their finances in order, social media influencers who showcase a life of luxury, or even our past selves when we felt more financially secure. These comparisons often magnify our stress, making us feel as though we've fallen behind or failed in some way. But financial challenges, like everything else in life, are relative. The person you're comparing yourself to may have their own hidden struggles, or they may be at a different stage of life. Your financial journey is unique, and the setbacks you're facing now don't define your future. When financial stress feels overwhelming, take a step back and assess the broader picture. What can you learn from this situation? How does this period of financial uncertainty fit into the larger context of your life? Often, financial challenges push us to develop new skills, whether it's budgeting, finding creative solutions, or rethinking our relationship with money. These difficult moments can be opportunities to realign with what's truly important, focusing on long-term stability rather than short-term comparisons. Money, like success, is not the ultimate measure of worth or happiness. By applying the law of relativity, we can see that financial challenges are part of the ebb and flow of life. Today's difficulties don't predict tomorrow's outcomes, and with time, resilience, and the right perspective, financial well-being can be restored. Personal goals: the journey, not the destination. We often set goals for ourselves, whether in fitness, creativity, or personal growth, and measure our progress against some imagined endpoint. However, the law of relativity teaches us that the process of striving toward a goal is just as important as reaching it. How we experience the journey shapes our sense of accomplishment, fulfillment, and ultimately, our growth. Think of a time when you set a personal goal, perhaps to learn a new skill or improve your health. At the outset, the goal itself may have felt daunting, especially if you compared yourself to others who seemed further along. But as you progressed, each small step forward brought new insights. The early frustrations faded as you gained confidence and competence. By the time you reached your goal, you may have realized that the journey itself, the setbacks, the learning, the persistence, was the most rewarding part. The law of relativity reminds us that personal growth is subjective. What feels like a monumental achievement for one person might seem minor to another, and vice versa. The key is to focus on your own progress, understanding that your path is unique. Celebrate the small victories along the way, and remember that the lessons learned in pursuit of a goal are often more valuable than the goal itself. In applying relativity to your personal goals, shift your focus from where you think you should be to where you are now, and the growth you've already experienced. Progress, no matter how small, is still progress. By embracing this mindset, you'll find greater satisfaction in the process of becoming, rather than being solely fixated on the destination. Navigating setbacks with a balanced perspective. Setbacks are inevitable in all areas of life, whether in our careers, finances, or personal pursuits. But the law of relativity offers us a powerful tool for navigating these setbacks with balance and clarity. How we view a setback, whether as a failure or as a necessary part of growth, can change everything. Let's take the example of a personal health goal. Imagine you've committed to a healthier lifestyle, but after a few months, you hit a rough patch and slip back into old habits. The initial reaction might be disappointment, frustration, or even self-blame. You may start comparing yourself to others who seem to have no trouble maintaining healthy routines, which only deepens your sense of failure. However, by applying relativity, you can see this setback in the broader context of your journey. One misstep doesn't negate all the progress you've made. Rather than seeing the setback as a defining moment, recognize it as part of the learning process. Everyone experiences setbacks, and it's how we respond to them that matters most. By shifting your perspective, you can approach setbacks with a mindset of growth and resilience. What can you learn from this experience? How can you use it to better understand your needs and adjust your approach moving forward? With this mindset, setbacks become opportunities for reflection and improvement, rather than reasons to give up. Finding balance and gratitude in everyday life. One of the most powerful ways to apply the law of relativity is to cultivate a sense of balance and gratitude in your daily life. When we constantly compare ourselves to others or to idealized versions of where we think we should be, it's easy to lose sight of what we already have. Gratitude shifts our focus from lack to abundance, from frustration to appreciation. By recognizing the small joys and victories in everyday life, we can create a sense of balance, even amid challenges. This doesn't mean ignoring difficulties or pretending everything is perfect. Instead, it's about embracing the complexity of life, acknowledging both the struggles and the blessings, the setbacks and the progress. The law of relativity helps us see that every moment, whether positive or negative, exists within a broader context. What feels like a challenge today may be a stepping stone to something greater tomorrow. By maintaining a balanced perspective, rooted in gratitude and self-awareness, we can navigate life's ups and downs with greater resilience and peace. Moving forward, as you apply the law of relativity in everyday life, you'll begin to see how much power you hold in shaping your experience. Whether in your career, finances, or personal growth, shifting your perspective can transform how you view setbacks, challenges, and successes. By embracing the relativity of your experiences, you'll find balance, resilience, and a deeper sense of contentment. In the next chapter, we'll explore how the law of relativity can help us build resilience over time, using adversity and challenges as opportunities for long-term growth. Chapter 8. Building Resilience Through Perspective. Resilience, the ability to recover from setbacks, adapt to change, and keep moving forward, lies at the heart of personal growth. Life's challenges can sometimes feel overwhelming, but the law of relativity offers us a unique lens through which to view these difficulties, helping us build resilience by changing how we perceive and respond to adversity. In this chapter, we'll explore how the law of relativity can help you develop and strengthen your resilience. By learning to see challenges in a broader context and shifting your perspective, you can face life's ups and downs with greater confidence, flexibility, and inner strength. Resilience and the law of relativity. Resilience isn't about avoiding hardship or never feeling pain. It's about how we choose to interpret and respond to the inevitable difficulties that come our way. The law of relativity reminds us that every experience is relative. How we view a challenge depends on what we compare it to, how it fits into the larger context of our lives, and the perspective we choose to adopt. Think of resilience as a muscle. The more we use it, the stronger it becomes. Each time we face adversity, we have a choice. We can either allow the challenge to overwhelm us, or we can view it as an opportunity to build resilience. By adopting a growth-oriented mindset and applying the law of relativity, we shift from seeing ourselves as victims of circumstance to recognizing our ability to shape our response. For example, consider someone who loses their job. The immediate reaction might be panic or fear, especially if they've never experienced such a setback before. But over time, they might reflect on other difficult moments they've faced, perhaps a personal loss, a financial struggle, or a health issue, and realize that they've overcome challenges in the past. In comparison to those experiences, this setback might begin to feel more manageable. It doesn't mean the loss of a job isn't painful, but by placing it in the broader context of their life, they recognize their own capacity to recover and move forward. Resilience, then, is built on perspective. The more we're able to step back and see our struggles as part of a larger journey, the more resilient we become in the face of new challenges. Turning adversity into strength. One of the most profound ways to build resilience is to view adversity as a source of strength rather than as a sign of failure or weakness. The challenges we face in life are often what shape us most. They force us to confront parts of ourselves we may not have been aware of, and they give us the opportunity to grow in ways we never anticipated. Take, for instance, someone who has faced a serious illness. The experience may have been physically and emotionally draining, but through that journey, they likely developed a deeper sense of empathy, patience, and strength. Adversity forces us to dig deep within ourselves, and it's often in these moments that we discover just how capable we are. The law of relativity helps us recognize that adversity is relative. A challenge that seems insurmountable today may, in hindsight, be the very thing that propels us forward in ways we couldn't foresee. It's only by experiencing the struggle that we can fully appreciate the strength we gain from it. This shift in perspective, from seeing adversity as something to be avoided to seeing it as a source of growth, transforms how we experience life's difficulties. We stop viewing challenges as barriers and start seeing them as stepping stones toward personal development. Reframing challenges as temporary. One of the most common reasons challenges feel overwhelming is that, in the moment, they seem permanent. When we're in the midst of a difficult situation, it can feel as though the pain, uncertainty, or stress will last forever. But the law of relativity reminds us that everything is temporary, and that includes our hardships. Think about a time when you went through a particularly tough period. Perhaps it was a financial struggle, the end of a relationship, or a personal failure. In the moment, it may have felt like the weight of the world was on your shoulders. But with time, that burden began to lift. You gained new insights, found new opportunities, or simply allowed time to heal. The challenge didn't last forever, even though it may have felt all-consuming in the moment. By recognizing that challenges are temporary, we can begin to reframe how we respond to them. Instead of seeing them as permanent roadblocks, we view them as passing phases, moments that, while difficult, will eventually give way to new experiences. This shift in perspective helps us build resilience by reminding us that no challenge lasts forever, and that we have the inner strength to endure. The role of mindset in building resilience. The mindset we bring to adversity plays a crucial role in our ability to build resilience. The fixed mindset views challenges as reflections of our inherent abilities, often leading to fear of failure and avoidance of difficult situations. The growth mindset, on the other hand, sees challenges as opportunities for learning and development, encouraging us to embrace difficulties as part of the process of becoming stronger and wiser. The law of relativity aligns closely with the growth mindset. It teaches us that our experiences are not fixed but are shaped by how we choose to perceive them. This flexibility of perspective is at the heart of resilience. When we approach life with the belief that challenges are opportunities for growth, we're better able to adapt, recover, and thrive in the face of adversity. For instance, when faced with criticism at work, someone with a fixed mindset might internalize the feedback as a reflection of their abilities, leading to feelings of inadequacy or fear of future mistakes. But with a growth mindset, they might view the criticism as a chance to improve, asking themselves, "What can I learn from this?" By shifting the focus from fear to learning, they build resilience and become more adaptable to future feedback. This mindset doesn't eliminate the discomfort of adversity, but it does change how we respond to it. Instead of avoiding challenges, we welcome them as part of the process of growth. Resilience as a lifelong journey. Resilience is not something we acquire overnight. It's a skill we develop over time, shaped by the experiences we face and the perspective we bring to those experiences. The more we practice resilience, the more natural it becomes. Each time we overcome a challenge, no matter how small, we add to our reservoir of strength, making it easier to navigate future difficulties. The law of relativity reminds us that resilience is relative. What may seem like a minor setback to one person could be a significant challenge to another, depending on their circumstances, past experiences, and mindset. There's no universal measure of resilience. It's a deeply personal journey that unfolds at its own pace. The key is to remember that resilience is not about never feeling overwhelmed or discouraged. It's about how we respond to those feelings. It's about recognizing that we have the power to shape our experience of adversity by shifting our perspective and embracing the opportunities for growth that lie within every challenge. Applying relativity to build everyday resilience. So how can you apply the law of relativity to build resilience in your own life? It begins with recognizing that your experience of any challenge is shaped by your perspective. When difficulties arise, take a step back and ask yourself, what is this challenge in relation to? Is it as overwhelming as it seems, or is it relative to other experiences I've faced? How does it fit into the larger context of my life? By placing the challenge in a broader context, you can often reduce its emotional weight, recognizing that it's just one part of your journey, not the whole story. What can I learn from this experience? Even in the midst of adversity, there are valuable lessons to be learned. By focusing on what you can gain from the situation, rather than what you've lost, you shift from a mindset of defeat to one of growth. How can I use this experience to build resilience? Each challenge is an opportunity to strengthen your resilience. By viewing difficulties as chances to practice adaptability, patience, and perseverance, you transform adversity into a tool for personal development. Moving forward, building resilience is a lifelong process, and the law of relativity provides us with the tools to strengthen this essential skill. By shifting our perspective, reframing challenges as opportunities, and recognizing that adversity is temporary, we can approach life's difficulties with greater confidence and inner strength. As we move into the next chapter, we'll explore how to live in balance with the law of relativity, maintaining equilibrium through life's natural cycles of highs and lows. Chapter 9. Living in balance with the law of relativity. Life is a constant ebb and flow, a dance between highs and lows, successes and setbacks, joy and sorrow. The law of relativity helps us understand that nothing in life is fixed. Everything is relative to something else. To truly thrive, we must learn how to live in balance with this natural rhythm, accepting that change and fluctuation are inevitable. In this chapter, we'll explore how you can use the principles of the law of relativity to maintain equilibrium in your life, especially when faced with the inevitable shifts that life brings. By embracing both the highs and lows, and learning to navigate the spaces in between, you can cultivate a sense of peace and stability that carries you through life's natural cycles. The natural cycles of life. Everything in nature follows a rhythm. The changing seasons, the rise and fall of the tides, the cycles of the moon. These natural patterns remind us that change is constant and that balance is not about avoiding these fluctuations, but learning to move with them. In our own lives, we experience similar cycles. There are times when everything seems to align, when success comes easily, relationships flow smoothly, and happiness feels abundant. But there are also times of difficulty, when obstacles appear at every turn, when relationships feel strained, and when uncertainty or doubt cloud our vision. These cycles are as natural as the changing seasons, yet we often resist them, wishing that life could be a continuous upward trajectory. The law of relativity teaches us that the ups and downs of life are not separate events, but part of the same journey. The highs only feel high because we've experienced the lows, and the lows only feel difficult in contrast to our moments of joy. When we recognize that these cycles are interconnected, we can start to accept them with greater ease, knowing that neither the good nor the bad will last forever. Finding balance in highs and lows. One of the greatest challenges we face is learning how to maintain our center through both the highs and the lows. It's easy to get swept up in the excitement of success or the joy of good times, just as it's easy to feel weighed down by failure or loss. But when we become too attached to either extreme, we risk losing our balance. In times of success, it's natural to feel elated, but it's important to remember that success is part of the cycle, not its end. The law of relativity reminds us that success feels sweet because we've known the taste of struggle. This doesn't mean we should downplay our achievements, but rather that we should approach them with humility and awareness. By recognizing that today's triumphs are relative to the challenges we've faced, we stay grounded, avoiding the pitfalls of pride or overconfidence. On the other hand, during difficult times, it's important to remember that the lows are not permanent. They are part of the natural rhythm of life. The law of relativity helps us see that our challenges, no matter how overwhelming they may feel, are relative to the highs we've experienced, and that they too will pass. By keeping this perspective, we can navigate the tough moments with greater resilience, knowing that better times are ahead. Balance, then, is about accepting both the highs and the lows without becoming overly attached to either. It's about staying centered, knowing that life's cycles will continue to unfold and that we have the strength to weather whatever comes our way. Embracing the space in between. Much of life exists in the spaces between the extremes. We spend most of our time not at the peak of success or in the depths of difficulty, but somewhere in between, living our daily routines, managing relationships, working toward goals, and simply getting by. Yet, we often overlook the importance of these in-between moments, focusing instead on the pursuit of big milestones or the resolution of major challenges. The law of relativity encourages us to find meaning in the everyday. These moments of quiet, routine, and subtle growth are just as important as the big breakthroughs or dramatic struggles. In fact, it's often in the space between the highs and lows that we build the resilience, patience, and inner peace that carry us through the more intense periods of life. Imagine a time when you were working toward a long-term goal, whether it was advancing in your career, improving your health, or deepening a relationship. The journey likely involved moments of triumph and frustration, but most of the process probably happened in the quiet, steady progress you made each day. It's easy to overlook these in-between moments because they don't feel as dramatic, but they are the foundation of lasting change. By learning to appreciate the small, incremental progress we make in the space between the highs and lows, we cultivate a deeper sense of balance. We begin to see that life is not defined solely by its peaks and valleys, but by the steady rhythm of growth that happens in between. Cultivating inner balance. True balance is not something we find outside of ourselves, but something we cultivate within. The law of relativity teaches us that our experience of life is shaped by our perspective, how we interpret and respond to the events around us. By developing inner balance, we create a sense of stability that allows us to navigate life's fluctuations with greater ease. So how do we cultivate this inner balance? It begins with self-awareness. By paying attention to our thoughts, emotions, and reactions, we can start to notice when we're being pulled too far toward one extreme, whether it's getting lost in the excitement of success or feeling overwhelmed by the weight of a setback. When we become aware of these shifts, we can gently bring ourselves back to center, reminding ourselves that both the highs and the lows are temporary. Another key to cultivating inner balance is practicing acceptance. Resistance to life's natural cycles often creates more stress than the challenges themselves. When we fight against change, cling to success, or try to avoid discomfort, we disrupt the natural flow of life and make it harder to maintain our balance. But when we accept life as it is, embracing both the good and the bad, the easy and the difficult, we create space for peace. Finally, gratitude plays an essential role in inner balance. By focusing on what we have, rather than what we lack, we shift our perspective from one of scarcity to one of abundance. Gratitude reminds us that even in times of difficulty, there is always something to appreciate, and even in times of success, there is always more to learn. The role of perspective in balance. Perspective is the foundation of balance. The law of relativity teaches us that how we experience life is relative to how we view it. A challenge may feel overwhelming or insignificant depending on the context in which we place it. Success may feel exhilarating or fleeting based on the perspective we bring to it. By consciously choosing our perspective, we can maintain balance even when external circumstances are beyond our control. In moments of difficulty, we can remind ourselves that this too shall pass, that today's challenge is relative to past struggles we've overcome and future successes yet to come. In moments of joy, we can stay grounded by recognizing that today's triumph is part of a larger journey, not an endpoint. Perspective allows us to see life's highs and lows not as opposing forces, but as interconnected parts of a greater whole. By shifting our focus from the extremes to the bigger picture, we create a sense of balance that carries us through all of life's cycles. Moving forward in balance. Living in balance with the law of relativity means accepting the natural cycles of life, understanding that the highs and lows are not separate events but part of the same journey. It's about finding peace in the midst of change, appreciating the space in between, and cultivating inner balance through self-awareness, acceptance, and gratitude. As we continue to explore the principles of the law of relativity, the next chapter will focus on practical ways to consistently find perspective in everyday life, helping you apply these lessons not just in moments of reflection but as a daily practice of balance and peace. Chapter 10. Practical tips for consistently finding perspective. Perspective is one of the most powerful tools we have in navigating life's challenges. The law of relativity teaches us that our experience of any given situation is shaped by the lens through which we view it. When we change our perspective, we change how we feel and react, opening up new possibilities for growth, peace, and resilience. But how do we consistently apply this wisdom in our day-to-day lives, especially when we're caught in the middle of stress or uncertainty? In this final chapter, we will focus on practical strategies for finding and maintaining perspective, no matter what life throws at you. Whether you're facing a major life change or simply trying to manage everyday stress, these tips will help you stay grounded, balanced, and connected to the bigger picture. 1. Pause and step back. One of the simplest but most effective ways to shift your perspective is to pause and step back. In moments of stress or frustration, it's easy to become consumed by the immediacy of the problem, making it seem larger than it actually is. When emotions run high, our view narrows and we lose sight of the bigger picture. When you feel overwhelmed by a situation, take a moment to stop. Step away from the issue, physically if possible. This could be as simple as taking a walk outside, breathing deeply, or engaging in a short mindfulness exercise. These moments of pause allow your mind to reset, giving you the distance needed to view the situation more objectively. By stepping back, you create space to ask yourself, how does this fit into the larger context of my life? In most cases, you'll realize that the issue, while important, is not as all-encompassing as it feels in the moment. This shift in perspective helps reduce anxiety and opens the door to more thoughtful responses. 2. Ask the right questions. Perspective is shaped by the questions we ask ourselves. When faced with a challenge, it's easy to spiral into negative, unhelpful questions like, why is this happening to me? Or what did I do wrong? These kinds of questions often lead to blame, frustration, and a victim mindset. Instead, try asking empowering questions that help you shift your perspective. Some examples might include, what can I learn from this experience? How will I feel about this situation a year from now? What's the bigger picture here? These questions help you step out of the immediate emotional response and into a broader, more reflective mindset. They invite you to see the challenge not as an obstacle but as an opportunity for growth, insight, or even redirection. By consistently asking these kinds of questions, you train your mind to seek perspective in every situation, no matter how difficult it seems. 3. Practice gratitude daily. Gratitude is one of the most powerful tools for shifting perspective. It helps you focus on what's going well in your life, even when things feel difficult. The law of relativity reminds us that everything we experience is relative to something else. By practicing gratitude, we shift our focus from what's lacking to what we already have. Start by integrating a simple gratitude practice into your daily routine. This could be as easy as writing down 3 things you're grateful for each morning or evening. Over time, this practice rewires your brain to notice the positives in your life, which helps you maintain a more balanced perspective, even when challenges arise. Gratitude shifts your mindset from scarcity to abundance, from frustration to appreciation. It reminds you that, no matter how difficult the present moment may be, there is always something to be thankful for. This shift in perspective helps ground you in the present, offering a sense of peace and balance in the midst of uncertainty. 4. Reframe negative thoughts. Our thoughts have a powerful impact on how we experience life. When we're caught in negative thinking patterns, our perspective narrows, making challenges seem larger and more difficult than they truly are. One of the most effective ways to shift your perspective is to reframe negative thoughts into more constructive ones. For example, instead of thinking, this is impossible, I'll never be able to do it, you might reframe that thought to, this is difficult, but I can take it one step at a time. Reframing doesn't deny the challenge. It simply offers a more balanced and empowering way of looking at it. Reframing negative thoughts takes practice, but over time, it can become second nature. Each time you catch yourself in a cycle of negative thinking, pause and ask yourself, how can I see this differently? This simple question helps you step out of the immediate stress and into a more expansive, resilient mindset. 5. Surround yourself with perspective-building people. The people we surround ourselves with have a profound influence on our perspective. If we're constantly around those who focus on problems, negativity, or competition, it's easy to adopt those same viewpoints. On the other hand, when we spend time with people who encourage growth, positivity, and learning, our perspective naturally broadens. Seek out relationships with people who help you see the bigger picture. Those who remind you of your strengths, who offer constructive feedback, and who help you navigate challenges with a balanced view. These individuals act as mirrors, reflecting back a more grounded, thoughtful perspective on life's challenges. Remember that relationships are reciprocal. By cultivating a perspective-building mindset in yourself, you become that supportive person for others as well. When we help others reframe their challenges and see the bigger picture, we reinforce those habits in ourselves. 6. Focus on progress, not perfection. Perfectionism is one of the biggest barriers to maintaining a healthy perspective. When we set unrealistically high standards for ourselves, we place unnecessary pressure on every situation, making even small setbacks feel like failures. The law of relativity reminds us that progress is relative. Small steps forward are still steps toward growth, even if they don't meet some idealized version of success. Shift your focus from perfection to progress. Instead of asking yourself, "Am I where I want to be?" ask, "Am I moving in the right direction?" This simple shift in mindset helps you appreciate the journey, rather than getting stuck in the pursuit of an unattainable ideal. Life is about growth, not perfection. By celebrating the small wins and acknowledging the effort you're putting in, you create a healthier, more balanced perspective on your goals and challenges. 7. Stay present. Finally, one of the most important ways to maintain perspective is to stay present. So often, our stress comes from worrying about the future or dwelling on the past, which takes us out of the present moment. The more we can ground ourselves in the here and now, the easier it becomes to find perspective. When you notice your thoughts spiraling into fear of what might happen or regret about what has already occurred, gently bring yourself back to the present. Focus on what you can do right now in this moment to move forward. Whether it's taking a small action, practicing gratitude, or simply breathing deeply, the present moment is always within your control. Staying present doesn't mean ignoring the future or past, but it does help you maintain a balanced view, reducing the emotional weight of what's outside your control. Moving forward with perspective. The law of relativity reminds us that life is constantly in motion. Our challenges, successes, and setbacks are all relative to the context in which we view them. By consistently applying these practical strategies, you can maintain perspective in your daily life, helping you navigate life's ups and downs with greater clarity and balance. Perspective is not something you find once and hold on to forever. It's a practice. Each day, each moment, offers a new opportunity to shift your view, broaden your understanding, and cultivate a deeper sense of peace and resilience. As you continue your journey, remember that perspective is your greatest ally in creating a fulfilling, meaningful life. Conclusion. In this book, we've explored the powerful principles of the law of relativity and how they apply to every aspect of life. From navigating relationships and personal growth to finding strength in adversity, we've learned that our experience of life is shaped by our perspective. Perspective is a tool you can use to transform challenges into opportunities, setbacks into stepping stones, and stress into growth. By embracing the lessons of relativity, you cultivate a mindset of balance, resilience, and inner peace. As you move forward, continue practicing the tools you've learned. Pause, reflect, reframe, and stay present. Each time you shift your perspective, you strengthen your ability to navigate life's cycles with grace and confidence. Thank you for embarking on this journey of perspective, growth, and balance. Remember, you have the power to shape your experience of life, one moment of perspective at a time. Conclusion. Embracing the journey with the law of relativity. Throughout this book, we've explored the transformative power of the law of relativity, a principle that teaches us that nothing in life is absolute. Every experience, challenge, and success is relative, shaped by how we perceive it and by the context in which it occurs. This understanding has the potential to radically shift how we approach life, helping us navigate both the highs and lows with greater balance, resilience, and peace. As we come to the conclusion of our journey, let's reflect on the key insights we've gained and how they can continue to guide us in living more fulfilling, mindful lives. The power of perspective. At the heart of the law of relativity is the idea that our experience of life is shaped by our perspective. We've learned that how we view a challenge, success, or setback determines its impact on us. A difficult situation might seem overwhelming in isolation, but when placed in the broader context of our lives, it can become an opportunity for growth and learning. This shift in perspective is not just an intellectual exercise, it's a practice. As we encounter new experiences, we have the choice to ask ourselves, how can I see this differently? By reframing our challenges, looking for the lessons within them, and recognizing that they are temporary, we build a mindset that allows us to thrive, no matter what life brings. Living with balance. Balance is not about living a life free from hardship, nor is it about achieving a constant state of peace. Rather, balance is about accepting the natural ebb and flow of life, recognizing that every high is balanced by a low, and every struggle is followed by growth. The law of relativity teaches us that these cycles are not separate from one another. They are part of the same journey. By learning to flow with life's natural rhythms rather than resist them, we create a sense of inner stability that carries us through even the most challenging times. This balance is cultivated through self-awareness, acceptance, and a willingness to let go of unrealistic expectations. When we approach life with a balanced perspective, we find that even in the midst of uncertainty, there is a deeper sense of peace. Resilience through relativity. Resilience is the strength we gain from facing and overcoming adversity. The law of relativity helps us build resilience by reminding us that our challenges are relative. What seems difficult today may look very different in the future, once we've grown from the experience. Each time we face a setback and choose to move forward, we strengthen our ability to adapt and recover from future challenges. Resilience is not about being unaffected by hardship. It's about embracing the lessons that adversity brings, and trusting in our capacity to navigate difficult times. By viewing challenges as opportunities for growth, we shift from a mindset of fear and frustration to one of empowerment and hope. The importance of connection. Our relationships play a central role in how we experience life. The law of relativity has shown us that every relationship is unique, shaped by the context of our individual experiences. By approaching our relationships with empathy and an open mind, we can navigate conflicts and misunderstandings more effectively. We've learned that comparison, whether to others or to idealized versions of what a relationship should be, often leads to dissatisfaction, but by appreciating the uniqueness of each connection, we strengthen the bonds that matter most. In both our personal and professional lives, fostering connection with others allows us to build a network of support, guidance, and mutual understanding. Relationships become not only a source of joy but also a place where we grow together. Gratitude as a path to fulfillment. Gratitude is one of the simplest yet most profound ways to maintain perspective. By focusing on what we already have, rather than what we lack, we create a mindset of abundance. The law of relativity reminds us that everything in life is relative, including our sense of happiness and fulfillment. When we practice gratitude, we shift our perspective from one of scarcity to one of appreciation, allowing us to find contentment in the present moment. No matter where we are in life, there is always something to be grateful for. By regularly cultivating gratitude, we keep our minds open to the beauty and richness that exists all around us, even in the most challenging times. Moving forward with relativity in mind. As you move forward from this book, remember that the law of relativity is a tool you can use in every aspect of your life. Whether you're facing a career setback, a financial challenge, a personal relationship issue, or a moment of doubt about your goals, this law offers a way to find balance, perspective, and strength. The key is to apply what you've learned, to pause, reflect, and consciously shift your perspective when needed. The journey doesn't end here. Each new experience brings with it an opportunity to grow, to deepen your understanding of yourself and the world around you. By embracing the lessons of relativity, you empower yourself to live more fully, more mindfully, and more resiliently. Final thoughts. Life is not about avoiding challenges or reaching a state of perfection. It's about learning to flow with the natural cycles of ups and downs, accepting both the good and the bad as part of the same continuum. The law of relativity offers us a path to navigate these cycles with grace, helping us see that every experience, whether joyful or painful, holds value when viewed through the right lens. As you continue your journey, remember that perspective is a choice. At any moment, you have the power to shift how you see the world and in doing so, change your experience of it. This is the gift of the law of relativity, the ability to shape your reality by shaping your perspective. Thank you for joining me on this journey. I hope the lessons you've learned here will continue to serve you, offering insight, balance, and strength as you navigate the beautiful, complex, and ever-evolving experience that is life.